that's partly why they're here. They help us to evolve our hearts on an energetic or spiritual level.
Welcome to the Secrets of Being podcast. I'm Dr. Dawn Earhart Whitty, your guide on a transformative journey of personal development and discussions of universal truths. Join me and a panel of life coaches and spiritual leaders from around the world discussing how to handle some of life's greatest challenges. We will be sharing stories of love, faith, and inspiration with you, our faithful listeners, to live your happiest and most fulfilling life, full of purpose and passion for yourself, your families, and the world. We are here to be the change we wish to see. Let the conversation begin. Welcome to the Secrets of Being podcast. I am so excited today to get to talk to Annie Bourke. She is in Australia. She's an animal communicator and a psychic that speaks to animals. And I just am going to love this conversation. So Annie, welcome. I would love you. You were also an author. You've written, your book is right there. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and then I want to ask you some questions. I've got so many questions.
Okay, thank you for inviting me to be a guest. Yes, animals are my passion, like you. And I've known that from when I was very little, like about 18 months old. I just loved spending time with animals, and that relationship has just grown. And I started telepathic communication with animals over 14 years now. 10 Telepathic communication is how animals talk to each other, whether they're domestic or wild, but it's a language that we can't hear audibly. So when I talk to them, their voices are actually in my head. It's such a bizarre sensation hearing voices in your head. And they've all got different voices, just like humans, different tones, different accents. So it's just fascinating. Some of them sound very cultured, some of them are very laid back. So I never know what they're going to sound like. But it's just such a joy to be able to connect with them and ask their human parents questions, which can give the parents clarity and peace of mind about what's happening with their animals. But it also empowers the animals because they get a chance to pass on their messages to their humans. And, they're so grateful that they're in a home where they're loved, they feel secure. And they just want to pass on their messages of gratitude, but also their wisdom. And I'm sure we're going to be discussing that in the conversation, so I won't say any more about that now.
Well, I saw this quote once that said, until one has loved an animal, a part of their soul remains unawakened. And that uh, chills. I just got chills because it's so true that bond that we have between creatures that don't speak our same language and aren't the same species, but that love is so powerful. How you said 14 years you've been doing this. When did you first realize that you have this gift?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I've actually got that quote in my book, in my recent book, because I really
You
love that.
do.
Yeah. And the other one that's in the book is when I look into the eyes of an animal, I do not see an animal. I see a living being. I see a friend. I feel a soul. And I
Mm-mm.
just think, animals are just so special. They're souls that have come to earth in an animal body, and a lot of them are here with us to help us. And a lot of people don't realize that there's a deeper purpose, that they're much more than pets. But yes, I had always thought my animals could understand me. And I actually used to say to them, I wish I could speak cat because I really wanted to know what they were trying to say back to me, and I couldn't. And I had a little ginger girl cat at the time, and sadly, she passed after a short illness. And it just made me feel as though I'd missed the opportunity to get to know her on a deeper level because I didn't know how to talk with her. So she's the one who inspired me to look for an animal communication course. And I found one, and on the home page was a picture of a ginger cat who looked exactly like her with the same facial markings. And I thought, that's not a coincidence, that's a sign. And I've spoken to her since because I talk to animals in spirit, and I said how I felt with not being able to talk to her. She's got no regrets. She knew it's my life purpose to talk to animals, and particularly animals in spirit. And it was her purpose to help guide me to do that. So mission accomplished for her. And I can talk to her now telepathically, and she's appeared in dreams and meditations, and I've been able to hold her and hear her vocalize and feel her purring. So, and that's what animals have taught me, that even when the physical body is no longer with us, that love connection we have with them endures because their soul endures, and we can always connect with them. And so, as I've progressed through 14 years, they just continue teaching me more and more concepts. So, things I knew 14 years ago are so different to what I know now, just with the richness of the wisdom that they've been sharing. And they're such amazing teachers, and they just know how to pace things so that they can teach you a concept. You've got time to get your head around it, integrate it, talk about it, write about it, and then they teach you the next concept. So I've just been on this huge learning curve, thanks to all the conversations I've had.
So I'm very curious, do you have this ability with people or is it mostly with animals that you do?
I know from past experience that I've tuned into people, particularly playing games like Pictionary. I don't know whether you've played that,
I
where
have.
you've, yep, okay. So for people listening who haven't played, someone gets a card with something that they need to draw, and they've got to draw it, and you've got to guess what it is. And I would just know what it was that they were trying to draw. And I didn't realize at the time that that's what I was picking up was, messages from them. But I really focus at the moment on the animal communication and the animal mediumship. And it's something I understand that we can do as children, the telepathic communication. And if you look at little kids, they squat right down next to an animal and they'll tell you what the animal is saying. And most parents think, oh, yes, dear, very interesting, not realizing it really is a genuine conversation and the child is just repeating exactly what the animal said. But something happens as we grow up and we close off that ability, but it's something we can reactivate. And that's what I do now with my mentorship program. I help animal parents and animal professionals communicate telepathically with their animals, and then they can do that with other animals as well. And it's just incredible hearing your animal talk for the first time and hear their voice. And yeah, just finding out so much more about their personality with how they talk and what they tell you.
Oh goodness. I wonder what my dogs would say. I have to tell you, I did bring Kleenex because I feel like at some point I'm going to cry because my love for animals is so profound. It's stupid much. I mean, I brought home a dog from Puerto Rico once because he adopted us. He found us, and I'm like, I can't leave him. So we had him for 12 years, and I love that dog so much. So yeah, so I might cry. I'm just gonna, and I hope it's
That's
not
all
the
right. They're my passion as well. So there's a huge emotional tie with our animals. And it's interesting because people are not aware yet that some of our animals have actually reincarnated. And so some of the animals that you feel an incredibly strong bond with and you don't know why are likely to be ones that you've had a connection with either in this lifetime, like a childhood pet who's come back to be with you again, or an animal or a human from a past life who's come back deliberately in an animal body to be with you. And to me, it's just fascinating finding out whose soul is in your animal. And, people do recognize things. So I've had people in my mentorship program talk to an animal in spirit. And one lady recently, when she spoke to her cat, heard her father's voice. And so her father had come back in the cat to be with the family. And she didn't know. She knew he was very protective, particularly of her daughter, but wasn't expecting to hear his voice. And I've had clients now, we've worked out it's a child who's passed away early who's come back, or it can be a parent or a grandparent from this lifetime. But even more interesting is finding out the past life connections. And I know some listeners may not be familiar with the concept of past lives, but that's what the animals have told me. And they know about their past lives. When we come to earth as souls in human bodies, we don't remember our past and we don't remember why we're here. But animals are different. So they can tell me what era they lived in, back 2,000 years ago, who they were, whether they were an animal or a human, what you were doing, what occupations there were. And I just looked this all up. It's like a detective story, finding out whether the facts are true. And they always are. Like it's, historically correct, the information that they're giving me. So, and that explains some of the bonds we feel with them, particularly if they've been a partner. And I've had a number of women whose cats have been their male partner and they're extremely affectionate with them in this lifetime. And they think it's wonderful that they can just lie on mum's chest and give her lots of love in public, and continue that strong affection bond that they may have had for hundreds of years.
Oh, um, yeah, here I feel the crying. Um,
Yep.
I've just lost, and I've loved all of my animals, every single one of them. But I just lost my Toby, who's my soul dog. Like, and I mean, he would sleep on top of me. And he was a Great Dane Pit Bull mix. He was not small. He was not a tiny dog, but I used to call him Tiny Dog. Um, so I want you to share a few, really powerful times where you were able to communicate something to people and they could verify that and say, oh my gosh, because they're skeptics. Everybody's, there are a lot of
Oh,
people that are skeptical about a lot of
absolutely.
different things. So I want you to share like a couple of those stories because I'm sure you have so many.
Yep. One of the really fascinating things I've learnt along the way is that animals in spirit are so intelligent that they give me what I now refer to as a code word in a conversation. And it's nothing to do with what we're talking about, makes no sense to me, but it means something significant for their human. And so it confirms for their human that I'm definitely talking to their animal. And the first time I was consciously aware of this, I was talking to a blind cat in spirit. Now, I don't get to meet many of my clients. I connect with animals, living or in spirit, through photographs. So the parents just email me a photograph of their animal and their name and the questions they want me to ask. I have to ask the animals permission to have the conversation because for them, talking is a free will choice and I can't force them to have a conversation. So I've got this photo of this blind cat in spirit and his mum's questions, and he was very happy to answer them. And partway through the conversation, he said to me, "Rumple teaser." Now, I'd never heard that word before, and I'm thinking, what's he telling me? And I thought, is he trying to say Rumpelstiltskin and I've just misheard him? But then that made no sense with what we were talking about either. So I ended up convincing myself I was just hearing things and ignored it and continued the conversation. And then he said it again very clearly. And I thought, okay, I'm not hearing things. He's definitely giving me a message. So I just typed a message to his mum and I just said, was he ever called Rumpelteaser? It was just an intuitive feeling that I had. And she didn't respond. And I thought, oh, she's going to be thinking I'm crazy. And then I get this message back saying, oh, yes, I'd forgotten all about that. And apparently, when she rescued him, he was living with a dog called Rumple. And he used to get in trouble for teasing the dog. So he got called Rumple Teaser. He couldn't even see the dog. But how smart of him to send me that word because there's no rational explanation for how that word got in my head apart from him telling me. So it absolutely confirmed for mum that I was talking to her cat. And it then taught me that these animals are so intelligent that if I get something I don't know what it means, I just pass that on to the human and they explain what it means. I also spoke to a female cat in spirit who was determined to come back as a dog. Now, with most of the conversations I've had, an animal comes back as the same species, but they might be a different breed. So I've learned all sorts of things, particularly about dog breeds and crossbreeds that I've never heard about before. So normally a cat comes back as a cat and a dog comes back as a dog. But this cat wanted to come back as a dog, and she told me she was going to come back as a terrier and she was going to be a wheaten colour. And I'd never heard of wheaten being a colour, but for terriers, it's a genuine colour. And then partway through the conversation, she said to me, tomatoes. And I said, oh, can you expand on that, please? And she said, no, it's a test. And I thought, okay. I wonder whether she wants to eat tomatoes when she comes back as a dog. So I Googled, is it safe for dogs to eat tomatoes? And apparently, as long as they're not getting flowers or stems and it's a ripe tomato, small quantities are safe. what amazed me was on this page on Google is a terrier with a bowl of tomatoes. And this is just a few minutes after she's told me she's coming back as a terrier. And I thought, okay, that's confirmation that she's telling the truth. So I told her mum and I sent her the link to the page so she could see it. And she said, "Oh, Annie, tomatoes are my favourite things and I eat them every day. The cat knows that." So that was her cat confirming that she was definitely talking to mum. And then the image confirming that she's definitely coming back as a terrier. And she has. And I was wondering how she was going to cope being in a dog body after being used to being in a cat body. And she can do everything she wants to, apart from hop on her parents' bed at night to go to sleep. So they've got her a little set of stairs so she can climb up on the bed. But she really wanted to be a dog because she didn't want to get left at home when the family went on holidays and she wanted to be involved in things. So now she goes to dog-friendly cafes and gets admired everywhere she goes. She's been on the family holidays, goes for walks, and she's just loving being a dog. So, as part of that conversation, she also taught me that they obviously have some choice with who they come back as because she was determined to come back as a dog, and she has.
Oh, wow. Those are really powerful stories. I mean, does it give you goosebumps when you get the confirmation from the
Oh,
owner
look, when the
parent?
parents explain what it means, I
Mhm.
had another dog whose code word was tree house. And I'm thinking, why would a dog say tree house as a code word? I couldn't imagine them climbing upstairs to go into a tree house. And Mum said that she used to take the dog to a property called Tree House, and just over the road was a whole series of nature walks. And that dog walked on those nature walks from when he was a puppy till just before he passed away. And it was one of his favourite places to go. So that just evoked such beautiful memories for Mum hearing that word. But yes, she got that confirmation. So that was just beautiful. And look, they say the funniest things. You just don't know what they're going to do. I had to speak to him in spirit, and then I spoke to his sister dog who's living. And I didn't realize, but she was actually listening to our conversation. So she actually confirmed some things for me when I started talking to her. Um, Great sense of humor. And that's what the animals bring out. Like they know so much about language. And I've had someone say, it's a dog, it knows stop and walk, and that's about it. But like I have profound two-way conversations, and even in my mentorship program, the words that they come out with, sometimes I've never heard of them. And I look them up in the dictionary and they're there. And I believe that these are animals that have had past lives hundreds of years ago. And so they use words as examples that they're familiar with that we don't use in everyday language now. One of my cats was working with one of my clients, and my client had to send a word and then ask my cat to send back the word that she received. My client sent the word transform. So I'm waiting for my cat to send the word back transform. She sent back the word transmogrify. Now, to my knowledge, I've never said that in front of her. And when I looked it up, it means to transform in a magical or surprising manner. So she knew exactly what the word was that had been sent, but she just upped the ante by sending back a word that means the same thing but was different. So I actually asked her how she knew the word because I knew it wasn't from me. And apparently she was an English tutor as a human some time ago, and it's a word she was familiar with. So you just don't know what they're going to come out with, but it's just fascinating finding out about their past. And again, when you said about the soul dog, I have a lot of people saying it's a soul dog or a heart horse or something. And the language you're using means subconsciously you're aware of that strong, powerful soul connection. It's not just from this lifetime, but consciously you may have no memory of the past lives where you've had with your dog and whether your dog was a human or not, and whether you were a human or not in that lifetime. But more and more people are discovering that they have had past lives with their animals, and more people are asking that now as part of a conversation. If we've had past lives, what details can you give me? And they'll say, in 1535, we lived in this place and we did this and you were this. And they're just so specific with the information that they give. But then that just explains, like, if they've been your child or your partner, or they've been your animal, it just explains more why you feel so strongly that you just can't rationally explain.
I mean, I have met people who didn't have a pet and they didn't understand, oh, they're dirty. Like, I don't want you let your dog sleep in your, that kind of attitude with pets. But then once they fell in love with an animal, it changed like their whole being. Like they got kinder, they got nicer. And have you had that experience?
Look, I have spoken with people that have never had an animal, and as you said, they don't understand the deep love that we feel and the deep grief that we experience as well. It makes no sense to them. But, if they can go and volunteer at a shelter somewhere or go and visit animals at zoos or, visit friends with animals and be in the animal's energy, then that can start having an impact on them. But it is, as you said with that quote at the start, they do awaken that part of your soul. And that's partly why they're here. They help us to evolve our hearts on an energetic or spiritual level. That's a big part of why they're here. And particularly for people who live on their own, that's their only opportunity to experience love, giving it and receiving it. It's very important. But animals are doing so much work behind the scenes to help us on a physical, mental, and emotional level. And I know there's lots of research about how they, help us keep our blood pressure lower. They help reduce the likelihood of a stroke. They're helping us increase our production of happy hormones and reducing the production of cortisol so we're not getting so stressed. They're great companions. And, if you've got a dog, as you know, you've got to get up in the morning, you've got to feed them, you've got to take them for a walk. So they give you a purpose for life. So, particularly for people who may be on their own and may be prone to depression, they have to get past that because they've now got a responsibility. They've got a meaning in life. They're a carer for the dog and they have to look after the dog. So they really powerfully help us in those ways. Plus, they come with a role in addition to their life purpose. So they can come as teachers for us, or they might be guardians, or they might be healers, or a combination of those. And that's something that they do while they're with us. But like us, they're a soul that comes to earth in a animal body. We're a soul that comes to earth in physical body. We all have a life mission. We all have soul lessons to learn. And sometimes our animals are with us to help us, and sometimes they're with us so that we can help them. And I've now had enough conversations to know that some of our animals keep coming back for multiple lifetimes in the past and in this lifetime. And so we must have very long soul contracts with them that they keep coming back to support us. Now, one of my cats has shown me with video snippets, which is part of the way they can communicate, that we worked together in ancient Egypt. He was supporting my work there. And so our souls have known each other for thousands of years, and he's been a human with me and he's been an animal with me. And he was one of my original animal communication teachers in this lifetime, and he's reincarnated in this lifetime. And so animals deal with passing more pragmatically than we do because they understand that they can come back again and there's a high likelihood that they'll come back. And so they understand it's the end of that chapter of life with you and they go back to the other side. They go through a healing process. They can come back and visit us energetically just to help comfort us, and we can see them, hear them, feel them when they come back for a visit, or they can visit us in a meditation or a dream. And then, if it's their destiny to reincarnate in another body, they do. And again, sometimes there's an issue with the body that they plan to come back in. And if that doesn't work out, then they'll find another body to come back in. If it's their destiny to come back, they do. And nothing can describe the feeling when you have them back with you again. Like so many people have said to me, can you just tell them how much I love them and how much I want to hug them one more time? And suddenly they're back with you and you get another whole lifetime with them. And like it's a blend of like euphoria, almost disbelief, surrealness, to have them back. And you'll recognize something with them. So even if they've completely changed species on a heart level and a soul level, you recognize them. I spoke to someone and we worked out his dog has actually come back as his cow. Now, this cow thinks it's still a dog. It goes running up to him like a dog, wants to be hugged like the dog was, does all these behaviours that the dog did, but never met the dog. but knows exactly what to do. The dog used to go down to the gate to meet the granddaughter when she came home from school. The cow goes down to the gate and the granddaughter rides the cow back up to the house. So, but instinctively, intuitively, the cow knows that's what the dog did, and that's what her responsibilities are now in the cow body. And she wants to go and sit on the outside couch with Dad and have hugs, a great big cow. But it's
Oh,
just so interesting because they remember what happened in the past, and their lessons from the past as well. So my girl Cat, who's on the front of my recent book, she's the one who taught me about soul reincarnation. And when
she's
she was with me last time, her lesson was to learn how to be comfortable giving and receiving love. She was quite aloof, which is unusual for the breed. And I used to just keep telling her, I love you. And I hope you get to the point where you're comfortable to be able to show me how you feel. And before she passed away, yes, she could. Now that she's back in a different body, she's integrated that lesson. And so she thinks it's a great joke to come and lie on me and kiss me, because she's saying, I learned my lesson. I know what I'm supposed to be doing. So they can recall what they were supposed to learn, and they've learned and come back with new things to learn.
yeah, that's so cute. And she's beautiful. What a beautiful
Oh,
cat.
she is. Yeah.
And when you said she was aloof, I mean, she's a cat. They're a little aloof sometimes.
Oh, well, her brother was an absolute lap cat, and he'd lie in my
Oh,
lap for ages, having Reiki and crystals and using essential oils, and that was his purpose, was radiating unconditional love. And whereas she wasn't as keen on being picked up, she wasn't really a lap cat. But now she's different. She spent all night snuggling with me and purring and licking me and kissing me. Just completely different because she knows now that she can do that when she wants to. And it's her choice. Like I don't demand, show me affection now. It's her choice. She can sleep wherever she wants to in the house. But, when they choose to come and spend time with you, whether they're lying against you or on you, near you, they just love being in your energy field and sharing that with you.
and you said unconditional love, and that keeps
Yes,
that is what animals do. They provide us that unconditional love. They don't care if we're stinky. They probably like it better. They don't care what our hair looks like or what we're
exactly.
wearing. They just love us because, well, we feed them. That's probably one of the reasons, but it's just unconditional.
Yep.
There's no condition to it. And that's such that
It's
humans
a
don't.
gift. It's a blessing to have them in our lives doing that. And that's why it's so important not to take them for granted. They're just giving that all to us. They're just so grateful for us looking after them. And they love knowing what's happening in our world. So that's the most important thing I can tell your listeners is to please talk to your animals verbally because they understand exactly what you say. They may not do what you ask them to do because they have free
Guilty over
will.
here.
And if they're doing something that you really don't want them to do, if you just say, stop that, don't do that, they hear you, but they want to
Yeah.
keep doing it, so they do. But if you explain why you don't want them to do it, then they take that into account and then that can change their behavior. So one of my clients had her cat running up and down her curtains and she didn't want the cat wrecking the curtains. And so she'd just say, stop it, stop it, stop it. And the cat just kept doing it. So I just said, tell her why you want her to stop. And she did. And the cat stopped running up the curtains. So they do listen, but
You know,
it's just
I heard
explaining. They love knowing what's happening. They love knowing what's happening with you. So if you can give them a running commentary on what you're doing, they just love it. That cat on the book cover told me, I just want to be involved. Like they're just so curious. You're their world. And so everything you do is fascinating to them. So, even if you're doing something mundane like the washing or washing up or whatever it is, you can tell them I'm going to be doing this for the next half hour. Then we can have playtime. They understand the concept of time.
and I was just going to say, I saw something, and I don't know if this is true or not, but they said when you leave your house, tell your dog when you're coming home.
I was about to tell you
Those say,
that.
I'll be right back. I won't
Yep.
be long. I don't say, well, I'll be back at 4. I don't use the time, but so they said to do that. And I didn't.
Yes. Yes. So particularly for animals who are here as our guardians, if you walk out the door, they can feel as though they're failing because they don't know where you've gone, they don't know what you're doing, and they don't know when you're coming back. So how can they protect you if they don't know any of that? And that can really stress them. The same, particularly for rescue animals who may have experienced abandonment. Again, if you walk out
Mm.
that door, they don't know if they're ever going to see you again. So, yes, tell them where you're going, what you're doing, and when you'll be back. So, if you can say, I'm going to buy dog food and dog treats, and I'll be back in 2 hours. They know where you're going, they know what you're doing, and they've heard you saying that you're coming back. So, that's really reassuring. They can count down that 2 hours till you're back again. So, they can be calm for nearly the full 2 hours, and then just when the 2 hours is about to be up, they'll suddenly be active again and waiting at the door for you to walk in. So they totally understand that. And that just helps them so much. Or if you're going away, you can just say, look, I'm going to be away for 3 sleeps. This is who's going to be looking after you. Then I'll be home. And that can calm them down.
Yeah, I tell my dogs a lot of stuff, but I never thought about adding the time part,
Yep.
whether it's like 2 hours or 4 o'clock or whatever I say.
Yep.
But
Yep.
yeah, I had a, well, Toby, my Toby, like
Yep.
he never wanted me to ever leave. I could be gone for 5 minutes going to the mailbox and he would just lose his mind. He would literally howl in the house. He used to go potty on the couch when he was a puppy, only when I left, and I would be gone for an hour, So he definitely, we had a thing going there. But I would always tell him, you know what, mommy, be right back. Mommy, be right back, and but he now he was like, no, you don't go. Just don't go.
And that's something that does happen, that their behavior can change and they're not being deliberately naughty, but they're telling you. So he was
Mm-hmm.
telling you he didn't want to be separated from you. But that's the thing, if you can say, look, I'm going to be back in 5 minutes. I've seen a lovely cartoon actually, and this dog's hanging up um, a photo of dad saying missing, and
Missing.
dad comes, I've only been gone 5 minutes. That seems like a lifetime to our animals. So you can just say, look, I'm going to be back. I do have to go out. I can't stay home with you, even though you want that, but I will be back in 5 or 10 minutes. And then, they know that you understand what they're feeling. And then the behavior will change. So that's one of the most common questions I get asked is, why has my animal's toileting behavior changed? And none of them I've spoken to are being deliberately naughty. They're trying to tell you something important. So, whether they're not happy that you're going away a lot, or whether there's something physically wrong, whether there's some kind of negative energy in the house that they don't like, there's all sorts of different reasons. And I'm not an animal behaviourist, but I can just say, why are you exhibiting this behaviour? And what can your humans do to help you stop it? And once they've been heard and you understand what the message is, then they can just go back to normal. So it's just,
So
yeah.
when you talk to them, do you do it in your head or do you do it out
Yes. No, in my head, because it's a
loud? Okay.
silent language. So, I go to zoos a lot. No one would know I was having conversations with the animals because I'm just standing there looking at them, but I'm having conversations with them. And that's quite interesting as well because a lot of people don't talk telepathically to animals in zoos. And I've only had two who didn't want to talk, and that's their choice. And I respect that. I've had no domestic animals refuse the opportunity to answer their humans' questions and pass on their messages. But one of the animals was an iguana, like a big lizard. And he just
Mhm.
stood there. He let me photo him, but he just didn't want to talk. And I thought, well, that's his choice. And the other one was a peacock. And so I introduced myself and I said, look, I'm practicing animal communication. Is it okay to have a conversation with you? And he said, what's going on? This has never happened before. What's happening? Um, and so I could just hear that it was just kind of really stressing him to have a human talking to him when he wasn't expecting it. So I just apologized and just let him move on. And then at the same zoo, they had a talking sulphur-crested cockatoo. I don't know if you've seen them. They've got a yellow comb that sits on their head, and they make this very loud screeching noise. Anyway, he was sitting in his cage verbally saying, hello, Charlie, hello, Charlie, hello, Charlie. But of course, when I talk telepathically, I'm not saying anything out loud. So I connected with him silently and said that I'd like to talk to him, and he just didn't respond. And I asked again in case he didn't understand my accent, but still no response. So I left him, went and talked to some other animals. When I came back, his keeper had been in and put some new shrubbery in there. And he's going, hello, Charlie, on and on out loud. And so once the keeper left, I said, oh, So I said hello, Charlie, to him out loud, and he said hello, Charlie, back. And I said, oh, you want to talk out loud, do you? What do you want to tell me? And he just kind of looked at me and he put his comb up and he stretched his wings out and he screeched and screeched and screeched as though I was doing something absolutely awful to him. And then he folded his wings down, folded down his comb, looked me straight in the eye and said, ha ha. Like he just knew what he was doing. Like they're just so unpredictable. Hilarious.
Yeah, and they all have unique personalities.
Ah, I had to speak to a cat who likes swishing his water out of his water bowl. And I know you've had cats, so you know they love playing with water. So I had to find out why he liked doing it, and he told me. And I said, would you like to tell Mum anything else? And he said, does she want an existential expose on the physics of displacing a volume of water? And I just listened to that and thought, wow, okay, he totally gets the concept of what we're talking about because, yes, he is displacing the volume of water with his paw. But, existential expose are not words we use commonly now. And I did wonder afterwards whether he'd been a physics teacher or a science teacher or something to phrase it like that. But that was just so unexpected. But that was his personality.
That's so funny. Maybe he was just a smart aleck.
Oh, look, I think he was showing that he totally understood what the question was, and I don't think there was any cheekiness or anything, but he was just showing that, his extent of knowledge was more than I was expecting with his answer. So, yeah, it was a
He was doing a
surprise.
science experiment.
Well, I had to ask a horse if she'd like to try a different bridle that would mean that she would have no metal in her mouth. The horse started singing Alleluia to me.
Oh,
And now I've never had an animal sing to me before. She had a fabulous voice, and it was such an appropriate song to sing to answer the question, but again, totally unexpected. So I just go in now expecting the unexpected. I don't know what they're going to say, and whatever they tell me is whatever they tell me, and I just write that up in a report to send to their humans. But yeah, they do make me laugh.
yeah. I mean, I don't have those conversations with my dogs, but they make me laugh. I mean, they bring me so much joy. There's so much laughter because they're just so silly and goofy and wonderful, you know. And oh God, I had a question there and it just like escaped my head. Um, you're talking about the horse. Okay, I'm gonna have to get back to that. I don't know what
That's
that one
okay.
was.
While you were talking about the goofy, it raises another good point that animals are very tuned into our vibrational frequency. And when we get sick, our frequency drops, and our animals can tell that. So I've had people say, how does my animal know when I'm not feeling well? Because they'll just come in and spend more time with you, lying on you, because they want you to get well as soon as possible. So that's how they know they can sense it, but they can also sense your mood. And I call them walking mood barometers. So your dogs will know if you're not feeling well or you're not happy or you're sad about something. And they will deliberately go and do something goofy to make you laugh because they know that will change the mood. And they're just so perceptive. I've had one mum, I spoke to her cat, and she said, my cat knows me better than I know myself. And she was just amazed at what the cat had picked up about her. No judgment, no criticism. They just say it how it is.
Just in
And they're
tune.
and they're very constructive with what they want us to do. Like I get asked, is my animal happy? And I prefer to ask, what can mum do to make you happier? Because that's an open-ended question rather than a yes/no question. And people think they're going to say, more walks, more treats, more playtime, but they're actually more concerned about your well-being. And so they will say, Mum is too stressed, Mum needs to do relaxation or meditation or whatever it is. They will come up with the solution to the problem and they will be happier when you're happier. And again, that shows a real depth of maturity and connection to us, that they're so intuitive, they know what's going on and they know what can help us.
Yeah, and they read energy, right? They're
Yes,
all about energy. So they're
yes.
good at that. And I did
Mhm.
remember what I was going to ask you. So what I wanted
Mhm.
to know is, does everybody have the ability to do this, or is this something that you're unique and not everybody can do this?
What I ask, if people are interested in learning it, they need to understand that animals have souls, because if you don't believe that they're sentient beings, it's not going to work. You also have to be open to the fact that animals can communicate with you in your language and that they understand what you're saying. Otherwise, you will block it and it won't work. So, as long as you're open to those things, then we do the program. And I do a lot of energetic work behind the scenes. I make up a big crystal grid on the ground to help support you and the animals that you work with during the program. And I actually get your animals' consent to help you because it's something that they haven't done before, helping a human learn how to speak animal. And I get them to choose crystals to go in the grid as well. So it's amplifying the telepathic connection between the three of you. I get everyone to practice with two animals. And if they don't have two domestic animals, then they can work with my cats. And
They
we
come at my house.
yeah. And then they do a variety. We do a variety of exercises. We start with very simple things and gradually progress to more complex conversations. But, I prepare all the animals before each mentorship session so they know what questions we're going to be asking. Because, again, they're so intelligent that when they answer a question, it's not just going to be an academic answer to send a word starting with the letter D. They will send a word that may be significant for you, and you can then they can then explain why they've chosen that particular word. And then we do mediumship conversations as part of the course as well, so you get to talk to animals in spirit, as well as living animals. And they send messages verbally, which you hear in your head. They can send messages visually, so they might send you the letters LOVE. They might send you an image of a heart, or they might send you a little video snippet with a whole lot of hearts floating through the air. And they haven't explained, it's some kind of thought transference technology to get those images in your head. They haven't told me how they do it yet, so obviously I don't need to know. I just know that they can. And they can also send emotions and feelings so you can feel in your body what they're feeling. So we do all of those different techniques in the mentorship programs so that you can send messages those ways. And it's hilarious because one of the cat clients loves roast chicken. And now that he knows that his mum can receive messages when he's hungry, he just sends her images of chickens. And so she knows that he's hungry. So he doesn't have to say a word. He just sends an image of a chicken and she gets the message. So, yeah, they are really funny. And I
I
can see you've
definitely,
got people running around your feet at the moment.
oh, they're just creating all kinds of havoc over here. But
That's all good. It's all
it,
about
it,
the animals. They love listening because they then know what you know.
yeah, well, and they're also very young and very naughty, and those are the two of them, so it's double trouble.
Hmm.
But well, I want you to tell people because I know you have a website, you have a podcast, and I want to thank you publicly. When I told you that I lost my Toby, you sent me the download of the, grieving, pet bereavement, and thank you for that. I still cry every day, but I know we're gonna, our souls are still connected. They're just he's not here physically. That's the only thing that gets me, through those sad times. But I want you to tell people where they can find you. I know you have a YouTube channel, so tell them all of that, and your contact information will be in our show notes too.
Great. Thank you for that opportunity. So, yes, I've published 3 books, which are all available from me in Australia for any listeners in Australia. Anywhere else around the world, they're available through Amazon. So, I've got 2 books about the Bridging Animal Consciousness series. So, this is book 2. This book I particularly wrote for people who have had to say goodbye to an animal. So, I talk about their soul journeys, how they can come back for energetic visits, but a lot of the book is the real life stories of animals who have reincarnated. So the stories their families have gone through, they've given us the information on how to find them, and then they reunite with their families again. It's so powerful. So I really want to give grieving animal parents peace of mind and hope that just because the animal's no longer physically with us at the moment, we can always connect with them. It doesn't matter how long ago they passed away, we can communicate telepathically, and then we can find out if they're coming back. I offer free master classes every month for animal parents and animal professionals, and I advertise them on my social media and in my newsletter. So if people just look up Annie, Annie, Bourke, Bourke, you'll find me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. As you said, I do have a YouTube channel, and I've actually done a lot of videos about working with me so people understand how I work, because I'm a bit different to some other animal communicators, and also lots of the animal conversations that I've had so people understand what it means for the families to get answers to the questions and to reunite with their animals again. Best way to contact me is email, and that will be in the notes. So it's chintuitive@bigpond.com. And my website is www.cosmicheartintuitive.com.au. And you can send me messages through the website as well. So yes, and I have conversations, whether they're animals living or in spirit, and I have a range of options for conversation. Some people just have one burning question they want to ask their animal, and some people want to ask several animals lots of questions. So there's scope with some of the packages to do that. And my mentorship program, where I work with you and your animals so that you can talk telepathically with your animals. So lots of different ways, but my main purpose is to raise global awareness about the importance of animals and to enrich the relationships between animals and humans, because your life is so much richer having an animal there. But once you know why they're with you and how they're helping you, that creates a whole new level of the bond that you have with them as well.
I was going to ask you for one final message, but you really just gave it. I mean, I think, again, that animal human connection is such a beautiful thing, and it does enrich our lives with the most beautiful, unconditional love. And if you haven't had that experience, you're missing like one of the best things in life. It truly is.
Hmm. And do you
So,
want to know something really exciting?
oh,
Mhm. Your boy's coming back.
I'm going to cry.
Yep. Yep. No, I got that when you were talking about him, and I'm going buzzy again now
I know, me
after I told
too.
you. So absolute confirmation. So, and that's the amazing thing, that they know that they can come back. So they just view, once they separate from you, they don't like leaving you grieving, but they know that they've got this ability to come back again and join you again as soon as they can, as soon as they find the appropriate body. And that just changes the grief process, because yes, you miss them, but you've got anticipation, excitement now, wondering what they're going to look like, what you're going to recognize, because sometimes they look exactly the same when they come back, and sometimes they're completely different. Obviously, if they're a different species, they're going to look very different to last time. But it's just so fascinating, the wait, the countdown, and then they're back. And after a couple of days, your other dogs will know who they are. It's so interesting when they come back, because they're going to look different, they're going to smell different, and animals rely so heavily on scent that they won't recognize them just by scent. So they've got to actually recognize them on a soul level. And it seems to be about 48 hours, and then everyone's worked out who everyone is, and life goes back to normal as though they never left. It is just such a weird experience.
Mm,
And I tell people it's like they've just been on a holiday, they've had a full body makeover, and they've come back again. And it's just amazing.
well, thank you for that. Again, I know our souls are always going to be connected because that bond was just, and again, with all of my dogs, I've loved them all so very much. And that one is
Mhm.
just the most recent, and it's the hardest one to talk about right now.
I know, but because you feel this soul connection so strongly, he's got to come back and do some more work with you. So you're not going to be left. He's definitely going to come back. There's more work to be
Well,
done.
I've got all the other critters that are holding that place in my heart. So I have some place for that love to go. So I don't
Yes.
feel terrible, but it is. But
Oh
thank
yeah.
you
It's
so much for doing this. Again, I love what you do. I'm definitely going to look into your mentorship program because I want to know all I can about that magical human animal connection because it's just so powerful and it's so magical. And maybe I could get my boys to listen to me sometimes.
Yep. Oh, it will. And particularly if your animals are here as teachers, once you can talk telepathically with them, then they can start teaching you. And I had no idea that my animals were here to be teachers until the penny dropped. And my girl said to me, about time. Like she'd been waiting for mum to get the message that she could teach me if I could talk to her. And yeah, and like in my last book, that cat that reincarnated wrote the introduction. One of my other cats wrote the final chapter. And he taught me things in that he's never told me before because he knows that the world is ready to start receiving these activations now and help us as we evolve. And I'm just in awe of the wisdom that they're carrying and how much they can help us on so many levels. So I really appreciate the opportunity to chat to you and your audience so that more people understand more
Yes.
about their animals. Yep.
Yes. I mean, they say everything is our teacher. Every experience, every person, every animal, everything is our teacher. And these are teachers that unconditionally love us. So what a beautiful teachers to have
Yes.
in your
Yep.
life.
Hmm.
Well, I'm going to sign up for your newsletter and thank you so much for being on the show. And I'm sure we will have many more conversations in our future.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you for tuning in to the Secrets of Being.
Thank you for tuning in to the Secrets of Being podcast. We appreciate your time and support. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe to stay updated with more inspiring content. For further inspiration, visit thesecretsofbeing.com and join our community. Until next time, stay inspired and keep unlocking the secrets of being.